Hello everyone, Fanta here, you're watching FANTAVISION, and today I have some really shocking news to deliver because it's something that I didn't ever really think would be a thing, It's something that you don't really think about that a company would do. Now, Sony hasn't been the worst company in the world. They've been okay, but this recent turn of events and this recent news puts the company in a different light, in my opinion. So I just learned, and many people just learned, that there is a finite life to your PlayStation 4. When your PlayStation 4 CMOS battery dies, which is the little battery on the motherboard that powers the BIOS, when that dies, it will essentially make it so you can't play disc-based games or any of your digital library until you reconnect to the PlayStation servers. Now, right away, you're thinking to yourself, well, Fanta, there's your solution. Just reconnect, you'll be just fine, and you can play your stuff again. PlayStation 3 is shutting its servers down right now. They're shutting them down, and when that CMOS battery dies, you can no longer play any of those digital games that you have on your PlayStation 3 because it can't reconnect. It's done. All those digital games on your PlayStation 3, when they shut that store down, they shut those servers down, you can't play any of those games anymore. That's why I'm always preaching physical. Buy physical games. They last. However, even with the PlayStation 4, they don't last, because let's say you don't have a PlayStation 5, or PlayStation 5 does the same thing. I haven't heard anything about that yet. People might not know. It's a newer system. I'm sure information will come out later. I mean, we're just learning about this with the PlayStation 4. It's ridiculous. PlayStation 4 is shutting down your discs. Now, PlayStation 3, from what I've heard, does not do this. You can still play your PlayStation 3 discs on your PlayStation when your CMOS battery dies, but you can't play any of your digital games. They'll be basically just files you need to delete off your hard drive because they're taking up space and they're no longer usable. Now, that being said, I'm sure there are going to be hacks out there to fix this issue. I'm sure once they shut down, that's the thing. When these companies shut down their store, you're shutting down access to purchase these games. Plenty of people out there are archiving these games, thank God, and they're going to release them for free, and people are just going to mod their PlayStation 3 and download them because there's no reason not to anymore. I'm going to be modding my PlayStation 3 at some point in the future because, they're shutting down the stores, they're shutting down support for my digital games, they're shutting down all of these services. They no longer support the PlayStation 3, and I feel like at that point you are morally justified to do whatever the hell you want to do with the system. I cannot legally purchase any more PlayStation 3 games on their digital marketplace. So why does it matter if I just download them somewhere else? Tell me, honestly. I'd love to know, if you disagree with me, why you think that way. I'll do a whole video on how some piracy, honestly, it's morally okay. Legally, you're still not in the right, but legality, morality, I feel morality is more important. I know, again, a lot of people are going to disagree with me there, but that's the thing. If you can't buy the game and the only way to access it is to download it off some website online and to emulate it or put it on your system afterwards after you mod it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, honestly. They're not supporting the system anymore. They're not supporting the software. They don't care about taking your money anymore, apparently, because they're shutting down all these stores. So the only way is to download from people that are archiving these games. Sony doesn't care about its game history. The only time it cares about its game history is when it can profit off of its game history, which is why PlayStation Now is going to continue to fill up with all these games that you can no longer buy on these stores. They would rather shift people to a subscription-based model that, again, is still terrible for archiving because it's just a subscription thing. You don't actually own anything. In fact, this is the fear of digital games that have had for so long, where you've gotten so far removed from the point that you own anything to the point where everything is just a subscription. I love Game Pass Ultimate, but at the same time, it's also one of the worst things out there, because if enough people get Game Pass and Microsoft sees this, the next console might just be a digital only thing where you only have Game Pass Ultimate as your option, or buying a digital game if it's not on Game Pass. I could totally see that because, I mean, there's a digital Xbox only, or a digital only Xbox already. There's a digital PlayStation 5 option at launch only. I mean, honestly, both of those are terrible value propositions for plenty of different reasons. But I'm not going to get into that in this video. It's just, it's the future, unfortunately. Because when a console goes all digital, I mean, it's game over, especially when we've seen how they are treating these games. And they just are going to keep getting pulled off the storefront. I mean, even Steam and PC storefronts are guilty of pulling games off of their storefront and having them just delisted forever and going into oblivion. And the only way to get these games is to illegally download them. So it sucks that this art form is just so poorly archived, you know? I mean, movies, I feel like they're out there, they're not going anywhere. It's a lot more difficult to preserve a video game that requires a certain type of software, or certain type of hardware, to run, and the emulation is incredibly difficult, and we don't have PlayStation 4 emulation that works perfectly yet. I think PlayStation 3 still isn't perfect yet. PlayStation 2 still has issues. N64 is still a pain in the ass. Emulation is still in its infancy, it feels like, whereas these games are being delisted by the thousands. And the only way to really preserve them is to keep an archive and to download them onto our modded systems. And the future of games, it's looking grim when they can just shut down everything and even make it so you can't play your discs anymore. That is the stupidest thing I've heard ever. I mean, I don't kind of get anything. If you have a digital game on your system should automatically assume that you've paid for it. I understand that there's probably some way that people can get around this, but at the PlayStation 3's lifespan right now, like where it's at in its life, where you're shutting everything down, why don't you just put a patch out that gets rid of that stupid thing? Get rid of the CMOS issue. Get rid of... Is this a thing that can be patched? Honestly, I don't even know. I really don't know. It seems to me that they thought about this and they made a effort to actually implement this into these systems. The DRM is such that the discs will not work anymore, and it was their design, it feels like, to make the PlayStation 4 not something that will last forever. And that's weird to me because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless, again, in the future, they're just planning to make everything PlayStation Now, and they want it so even people like me that have tons of PlayStation 4 games can't even play them if they want to because their system doesn't work anymore. Now again, PlayStation 5 can play PlayStation 4 games, thank God, but we don't know if this issue is going to carry over to the PlayStation 5, but I definitely could see Sony doing that. I could see Sony implementing the same deactivation of your disk drive like they did with the PlayStation 4 on the PlayStation 5, just because they did it already. Why wouldn't they do it again, you know? It just seems like Nintendo and PlayStation do not care about game preservation. Now, Microsoft, they're doing a mediocre job at best. I mean, you can play like 40 Xbox original games and like maybe a couple hundred 360 games, and even that emulation on the Xbox doesn't work perfectly for a lot of games, but I mean, there's a sort of effort there at least. And it's not like there's any built-in thing to shut down your disk drive for your Xbox One, at least that we know of yet, so it doesn't play games anymore. 360, again, I don't think it has that sort of thing where you can't play your disc-based 360 games. It doesn't make sense to me why they would put this in, because again, unless they're planning on a complete digital future and they're just going to make it as difficult as possible in the future to play these games, to funnel people into a monthly subscription-based service, why they would put in this method to just completely disable the system. Because again, once they shut down the stores, they can't make money off those titles anymore, which is why I said once they shut down service, once they stop support of these systems, I think it's justified to download whatever the hell you want, to mod them however you want, because there are no legal ways to buy the games anymore. Again, there's going to be people arguing PlayStation Now exists, but I'd argue you don't own those games. And they still don't support the PlayStation 3, so you should still be able to mod it. But again, that's just my opinion on the matter. It's fine if you disagree. And I'd love to hear your points, honestly, because that's where my mind is at, and that's how I have treated older systems and stuff like that. And the reason I even mentioned Nintendo in this is because, I mean, there's no virtual console, so again, kind of with that whole it's okay to download and emulate things because there's no legal way to buy said old games because they're just shutting down all the stores and ways to legally purchase these older titles. And they did this with Mario, the Super Mario All-Stars thing. I mean, you can't buy it from Nintendo anymore. Why is it now not okay to just emulate all those games and to just download that collection for your Switch later on? Because it's now not available. They, for some reason, put this expiration date on a triple pack of lazily ported titles. I don't understand this, but I also don't understand shutting down all these stores. There's no way it costs them that much to keep these stores running. I don't know. It seems like something that's unneeded from a company that is doing so well with their new system and will continue to make a lot of money in the future. Comment about how you feel down below, what your opinion is on whether or not it is morally justified to download games that are no longer available for purchase. Because, I mean, if you're buying a used game, they're not getting the money anyway. And also let me know how you feel about these storefronts shutting down, because at first I thought it wasn't that big of a deal, and now I'm reading about this whole CMOS battery thing and how it completely disables your system and all of your digital games. And I'm thinking to myself, do I need to take my PlayStation 3 apart now and change that battery before they shut down the servers? What should I be doing? How can I prepare? How can I doomsday prep my PlayStation 3? Or should I just start looking into modding it and mod the hell out of it and have fun that way? I don't know. I'm still deciding. If I do decide to mod it, I will make a video about that. And I still do need to make a video about my modded 3DS XL. Like the video if you guys liked it, subscribe for more content, and as always, have a fantastic day. See you, everybody.